Disney's second sequel of the year, Moana 2, has just dropped in cinemas here in the UK, so let's talk all about it. Hey, welcome back to another video, brand new movie review. Today I'm talking all about Disney's latest movie that's hit cinemas, Moana 2. Before I start talking about it, as always, just a friendly reminder that these are just my thoughts, so don't let this dictate whether or not you decide to go and see the film in cinemas, because you might go and see it and feel totally differently to me, and that is okay, because movies aren't made to cater for everyone. And without any further ado, let's start talking about it. And obviously this is quite an anticipated movie. Everyone's been looking forward to this. And firstly, I think it's worth noting that for me, the first Moana movie has always been... I've always seen it as more of a complex, more of a sophisticated movie than some of Disney's other movies. Basically, I base that on its plot. I think it's got more of a complex plot. Not complex as in an ITV 9-part drama, but I mean, you know what I mean, it's a little bit more, you have to do a bit more thinking compared to Frozen, that is, you know, much easier to understand. Frozen's the first film I just thought of, and so for that, Moana's never been my favourite film. I've enjoyed it. I like the Moana movies, and the second one now, but yeah, I've always seen it to be a bit more of a sophisticated film in terms of the plot and what goes on and how much you need to think about to understand what's actually happening. And I do think Moana 2 does follow that sort of theme. More so in the beginning. When the film kicks off, there is a lot of info that you are trying to process, and it does require a little bit of attention. So I do think Moana 2 begins again with this more complex and sophisticated plot idea that I noticed heavily in the first film, and again it kind of follows this trait into the second film. But this is a fun film, you know, it's kind of everything you would expect from a Moana movie, a Moana sequel. It has its fun energy, and it's got new tracks, new songs, and you know what, it is fun, it's lively, it's a Disney film. And you know, I always say that in my Disney reviews, but it is a Disney film, it's got that fun Disney feel to it. And I mean, obviously the songs aren't the same as what we had in the first film from the god that is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You know, he did an incredible job with the soundtrack of the first film. So to top that was always going to be a challenge, but I do think the guys behind the soundtrack of this film, of the sequel, have done a really, really good job. They're fun, energetic, bouncy songs, and I do think they really fit the Moana theme. My only comment about the soundtrack is, after a while, the songs all started to sound the same. Now, they were obviously different songs. They were songs with different titles, with different lyrics, with different meanings. But they all had the same sort of vibe, the same sort of rhythm about them. And, you know, whether that was intentional or not, I don't know. But they did all start to feel very samey. There was something about them that just made them all sound very similar. But they did a really, really good job, considering that they had a really tough act to follow. And you know, this film in general, I've heard that it was made to become a Disney Plus series or something of that nature, and while making it, they decided to make it into a sequel, into a feature-length film sequel. How true that is, I don't know, but that's what I've heard, that's what I've read, and I don't get that vibe. It doesn't feel like a series that has been made into a film. It does feel rushed. Now, this film it's got just over a 90-minute runtime, which for me is like lovely. That's an ideal length for me. I love watching films that are about that time, and you guys know that by now. But yeah, I felt like they tried to cram too much in to a shorter film, and I feel like everything was really brisk. And you know, like I say, it took me a good 25 minutes to fully get into the film. That was like when the kind of sophisticated plot came to an end, and it became a little bit easier to understand. That's when I started to really get into the film. But yeah, to me it was really quick. Everything was rushed, and you know, we don't really know much about this villain that is in the second film, that has kind of caused the events of this film. And to me, it was sort of hard to understand exactly what's going on, because I don't really know much about her, the villain, and her character. And you know, doesn't really take away from the story, but it would have been nice, and I think it would have been really useful to know a little bit more about her, to give her a bit more screen time. And there are, to me, a few loose ends at the end of this film that, as I started to think about them, yes, a few of them got answered, and there is one bigger loose end about the villain that I had, and then there's a mid-credit scene that kind of answers that question, that it answers what I was doing, and it does add a new element to this film, a little bit of a plot twist. So do stay for that mid-credit scene, because it may answer some of the questions that you have, or may not have, but it definitely adds to the story, and it feels more like a Marvel end credit than it does a Disney one, but there you go. But this film is really bringing back Disney, do you know what I mean? Dare I say it, the past few years for Disney animation, I'm not talking about Pixar here, but the past few years we've had Wish, and I loved Wish. Wish was my favourite film of 2023. I absolutely adored it. But the year before that we had Strange World, and they've not been fan favourites of the audience, of Disney fans. They've not been fan favourites. I loved Wish. Like I say, I thought Strange World was okay, but Wish had a 2D animation style that was a bit different. Strange World, wasn't as good, but it was all right. So I do feel like this is Christmas Disney coming back to us. Disney have done well this year with Pixar with Inside Out 2, and I do feel like this is a really good year that Disney has released this film, because everyone's loving it and everyone's back into Disney and loving what Disney's all about. So I do think it's kind of attracting the audiences back, and I really do think that they've done a really good job with this film. But honestly, this is everything you would expect from a Moana sequel. It's fun. It's it's got that Moana feel. Dwayne Johnson does great as Maui again. I love him. And it has got really oh my gosh, moments in this film. And it's also got some really funny moments, some really humorous moments. We meet some new fun characters, some really funny characters, lively characters with a lot of energy, a lot of character, a lot of charisma, and that's fun. It is a fun, lively film, and ultimately, again, at the end of the day, these films are for kids. Dare I say it, these films have a more sophisticated tone because they've got a more sophisticated plot. Whether or not I say I prefer this one over the first film, I genuinely couldn't tell you. I really, really couldn't. I'd sort of have to watch the first one into the second one back to back to tell you, because I struggle to tell you which one's my favourite. But I do think it's good. It does definitely have the same Moana energy as the first one did. And yeah, it's a really nice follow-on and a nice sequel. Does it add much to the actual Moana story? Not huge amounts, but it's great. It's fun we've had it, and I'm kind of glad we've got a sequel to this film, because I know how much Moana was loved. And I do hope that the Moana fans come out in force to love and appreciate this film as much as any other Disney fan. So there you go. I believe that's everything I've got to tell you on Moana 2. No doubt, because I do it every time, I forget something or other. But there's my thoughts on Moana 2. Before I wrap up, just a reminder, I haven't even spoken about it. But if you're quick enough to head down to your local cinema, you may be lucky enough to get a poster and activity sheet. They're free of charge. I was lucky enough to pick up a couple at my local cinema when I went to check it out last night. So if you're going to head down to your local cinema as soon as possible, you may be lucky enough to get your hands on some of them when you're going to see the film. And as always, just before I wrap up this video, what do I rate it out of 10? And will I be buying it on DVD to add to my physical media Disney collection? Well, I'm giving this film, I was tossing and turning between a 7 and an 8, and I've settled on 8 out of 10. Really fun, a lovely addition to the Moana set of films, and we'll be adding it to my DVD collection, my Disney Classics DVD collection. Of course I will be. I like the film, but even if I wasn't as keen on the film, I always feel obliged to get the film because I need to make my collection complete, and I am one of those guilty people that has to have a complete collection. So there you go, there's my thoughts on Moana 2, like I say, in cinemas across the UK right now, and as always, in the description below is the movie plot, a link to the movie trailer, as well as a link to my movie review playlist, which features every single movie review that I've ever done. And there's plenty more to come for the final month of 2024, so stay tuned for that, and I hope to see you in another video, and hopefully one of those movie reviews very soon.